In Washington, this is The Economist. I'm Roger McShane, the online U.S. editor, and joining me is Ed McBride, our Washington bureau chief. The second debate is now over. Ed, I think Barack Obama won the most improved candidate contest, but other than that, how did the candidates do?
It's an amazing change from the first debate. This time around, I think President Obama was probably not only most improved, but the sort of narrow winner, the winner on points, let's say.
Now, the two candidates had different goals tonight. Mitt Romney trying to cement his new lead in the polls, Barack Obama trying to regain his footing. How far did each candidate go to achieving these goals?
Well, the thing that changed after the last debate, Mitt Romney's poll numbers improved dramatically. He's now narrowly ahead in most polls, certainly basically brought the presidential election to a draw in the national polling when it previously was very much in President Obama's advantage. And the way he seems to have done that is twofold, both by rallying his base a little bit and sort of increasing the likelihood that Republican voters will turn out, and also by improving his standing with women who seem to have had this impression of him as some kind of fire-breathing radical, and he managed to reassure them in the first debate. So I think President Obama's goals this time around were to achieve something similar to what Mitt Romney achieved last time, i.e. to rally Democrats, put the fight back into them, hopefully increase the chances of a high Democratic turnout in 3 weeks' time on Election Day, but also to try and restore some sense of himself as the moderate candidate and Mitt Romney as somehow beyond the pale. And you could see he went straight in accusing Mitt Romney of all kinds of sort of excesses, both in his personal life, dodgy business deals, in his plans for the country. You know, he kept saying his tax plan didn't add up. He was very much trying to paint Mitt Romney as the radical in the race.
It was interesting because the format didn't lend itself to these sort of personal confrontations, and yet there were plenty of them during the debate.
Yes, absolutely. Both candidates were very pointed in their criticisms of one another. More than that, Mitt Romney actually came out and started asking questions, doing the moderator's job, asking questions directly to President Obama, which is something that we're told there was a memorandum of understanding between the two campaigns that expressly prohibited that, and yet Mitt Romney went ahead and did it. So there was some sense that they were both going to have to be quite aggressive and try and undermine the other's composure.
Did Barack Obama clearly make a case for re-election? Did he lay out reasons why Americans should give him 4 more years?
There was a question in the middle of the debate asking more or less exactly that. One of the members of the audience saying, "I voted for you last time, feel a bit disappointed, why should I vote for you again?" And President Obama had a reasonably fluent answer. He talked about various achievements, how jobs are growing again, how Osama bin Laden has been killed. But when it was Mitt Romney's turn to respond to that, that was actually his best moment in the debate. He came up with an equally compelling, more compelling list of all the things that Obama himself had promised and failed to do. He promised to cut the deficit in half. He promised to bring unemployment down to 5.6%. And it seemed so effective precisely because he wasn't saying, "Oh, well, the economy's bad, it's all your fault." He judged Obama by his own standards and came up with, rattled off half a dozen ways in which Obama had failed to live up to his own promises. And it was a really crushing attack. It was definitely Mitt Romney's best moment.
The next debate is about foreign policy, and there are a few foreign policy questions tonight, one specifically on the attack in Libya, in Benghazi. And Mitt Romney has made hay of this issue, but Barack Obama seemed to get the better of him tonight.
Absolutely. This was Barack Obama's best moment during this debate. There was this terrible moment where Mitt Romney said, "Well, you didn't call it an act of terror," and President Obama said, "Well, yes, actually I did. The day after the attacks, I stood there in the Rose Garden, I called it an act of terror." And Mitt Romney said, "No, you didn't." And the moderator, Candy Crowley, actually stepped in and said, well, actually he did. But maybe even better was the point where Mitt Romney essentially implied that the president had sort of taken the deaths of 4 diplomats lightly. He sort of complained that the president had gone off to a fundraiser. President Obama responded incredibly forcefully with this righteous indignation, saying very simply, how dare you accuse me of playing politics? That's not the role of the commander-in-chief. That's not the role of the president. To even ask the question implies that you don't really understand the role of the president. It was the one moment in the debate where Obama scored 100%. Mitt Romney really looked embarrassed and cowed.
I'm not going to ask you if debates matter, because after the first debate, they obviously do. We saw a big swing in Mr. Romney's favor. But how much will this debate actually affect the race?
I think that there's 2 different ways of thinking about what Mitt Romney did for himself with his victory in the first debate. You could either say he improved his standing with this voter, this category of voter, and that category of voter, women most notably, enthused the base. President Obama now has the opportunity perhaps to do that as well, sort of move the numbers slightly here and there, and that will work out ultimately in one candidate's favor when the complete series of 3 debates is done. But an alternate theory has it that what a challenger needs to do in a presidential election is simply prove his credibility and prove that he has the stature to be president. And once that's done, there's no going back. If you subscribe to the first theory, then President Obama fought back tonight, probably regained some of that ground, may regain some more in the weeks to come. If you subscribe to the second theory, Mitt Romney looked very plausible in the first debate and reasonably plausible tonight, and so the ground he gained, he will retain.
Ed, thank you for joining us. In Washington, this is The Economist.